Hello class, this is Mr. Broussard. I'm sending you this video for the 11th week of our Composition 2 course for the fall of 2020. I was wanting to send this video to let you know what all it is that we will be doing over this next week, and then also to give you a heads up because of the final in this course that is a research essay, and in particular to give you the heads up. Obviously, you already know how to do MLA 8th edition framework, but I wanted to give you a heads up on how to learn about sourcing and citing, in particular, how to do what are called in-text and or parenthetical citations within the research essay, and how to do a proper works cited page. Now, let me be abundantly clear on this. This only, I repeat, only applies to the research essay that is due at the end of this class, which I want to let you know will be Wednesday, December the 16th at 8:59 a.m. Now that did change from the original time frame because originally it was going to be Friday, December the 18th, but I went and looked at our schedule and realized the class and all classes end on the 16th. Probably won't be here on the 18th. So obviously you had to have this completed by the 16th because that's when the class ends, because that's when I have to have all of my information in. And so just to reiterate, you have a research essay that's due Wednesday, December the 16th at 8:59 a.m. So in a little bit, I will go over some of the different things. I have posted it as well. Same place you'll find this video. You'll also find a post linking to, well, two links through the Purdue OWL website, PURDUE, OWL, OWL. It's Online Writing Labs, what OWL stands for. And Purdue is a university in Indiana, known as a very good engineering school. I've been actually on their campus. A lot of their buildings are named for astronauts, so that's what they're also known for. They produced a lot of astronauts back in the 60s and 70s and into the 80s. But they also have an online writing lab that has been used. I remember using it when I was in graduate school, so it's been there for a long time, and it's there to help you not just in the short term of you use it to get through one essay, but it also helps you learn certain processes that'll help you if you have to end up writing a lot of MLA style essays. Hopefully you learned APA. If you had me, you learned APA in Comp 1. You learned in my Comp 1s, I teach MLA framework and APA framework, and I teach APA sourcing and citing. And then my Comp 2, I teach MLA sourcing and citing. So I just want you to be aware of that. But we'll get to that at the end of this video. Before we get there, we also need to make sure we get done with what we have over the next week or so, because believe it or not, 2 weeks from today, this course is over with. So I wanted you to know what all is left for this course. This week, as far as reading, and the only reading that you have left in this course, is to read Hamlet by William Shakespeare on page 1396. And so obviously it's a nice large work that you have to read. Technically, you had the ability to read it at any time. Obviously, you knew it was coming up, but yes, this is the last of the works that you will read for this course, the last of the drama plays, and the last of the overall literature that you will be dealing with. So make sure you read Hamlet by William Shakespeare. You will have a reader response on it. That reader response is due, make sure I have my dates correct here, on Monday morning at 2:59 a.m. So before you go to bed on Sunday night, make sure you have that reader response on Hamlet done for that. Now, as I said before, when it comes to your individual reader responses, and yes, when it comes to your journals as well, separately, I do drop the 3 lowest grades of each. So the 3 lowest reader responses grades get dropped, and the 3 lowest journal grades get dropped. So if you like what you have, and the highest of the shaded out grades is something you'd be willing to take, then if you don't want to do this reader response, or for the matter, the journal is coming up as well, you have the freedom not to do that, though, again, whichever the highest shaded out grades that comes will be factoring into whatever your grade is. So it may go down a little bit, it may not go down at all, but if you have all hundreds at this point, then, and the highest shaded one's 100, then you're fine there as well. Now, if you plan to use Hamlet on either the drama essay final draft or for the research essay, although the truth is, if you're doing it for the research essay, you have to do it for the final draft. My advice is you do a reader response simply because it'll give you a nice little head start. Because remember, you can take what you have in your reader response, add in at least 2 more points of analysis, and that gives you your drama final draft essay. And then if you'd like, you can take that drama final draft essay, which by the way is due on let's say Monday night of next week. It's typically due December the 8th at 2:59 a.m. But again, don't lie to yourself. Just say it's due Monday night. But let's say you want to do Hamlet as that, so you can do Hamlet's reader response, and you can take that point of analysis from the reader response that's due on Sunday night, add 2 more points of analysis, have a proper thesis paragraph, proper concluding paragraph, at least 1,000 words, all the requirements I've had for you all semester, and there's your drama final draft essay. And then, of course, you do have the ability, if you want, to take that drama essay or either of your other 2, the short story or the poetry analysis essays, and then you add your source material, your research in, and back up what you have as your analysis in those essays, and that will be your research essay, which is due again Wednesday, December the 16th at 8:59 a.m. So like before, don't lie to yourself and say you all have all day Wednesday to do it, because by the time you get it done, I will have already left here and will not come back here until January, and you will have failed the course or at least had a very bad grade in the course. So let's just say again, Tuesday, December the 15th, before you go to bed that night. Have it done, have it turned in properly, everything good to go. And again, with that research essay, you can take any of the 3, either the drama essay that's upcoming, or either the 2 essays you've already done, the short story or the poetry ones. And again, you back up with source material, and you have your research essay done in proper 8th edition style with in-text parenthetical citations and a works cited page. And again, we'll go over that in a little bit. But you have those things to do, and that you could do if you decide you want to do Hamlet. Now, if you decide you'd rather do one of the either the Glass Menagerie or Oedipus, which you've already done, and again, the highest of the shaded out grades on the reader response you like, you don't mind, moving into your actual grade. You don't want to do this reader response, you don't have to. You have that freedom if you don't mind that. Some of you don't have the freedom because you may have missed a few here or there. Some of you might not truly have the freedom because you didn't do the first and the 2 drama ones, which means you'll have to do this one, or else you'll be starting an essay from scratch, and you'd rather not have to do that. So take all these things in, understand if you don't do this reader response, it's a 0. It will be shaded out, but you'll have a grade that factors in. So hopefully you like what you have. That same, by the way, applies to your journals, and you do have one last journal that is due, let's say, Tuesday night of next week, December 9th, 2:59 a.m. officially, but let's say Tuesday night. Journal entry 10, the topic will be basketball. And again, if you want to do it, you can. If you can afford your highest shaded out grade to be factored into your grade, and you want to skip this one, you can. This becomes a 0, but it gets shaded out. Your highest of the already existing shaded out ones will replace it, and that will be your overall journal average. Once all of the top 7 of these journals get averaged together, that's what the average will see. So you have those options. And I like doing that simply because if you're on the ball early in the year and you like what you have, this allows you the freedom to not do these and then wholly focus on just the drama essay, and then just the research essay when it comes to it, and just the proctored exam when it comes to that, which is another bit of work you do have that is coming up. It is available to you now. Let me go ahead and get to it just to make sure. Yes. The Oedipus quiz, and that requires the Respondus Lockdown browser to be used on your computer, whichever one you use, and that your computer has a webcam. These things are mandatory. If you don't have them, you have to find a computer that does. This is the only way you're taking this quiz. Excuse me. And if you do not take this quiz, you fail the course. You fail the course outright, because this is the one bit of the work for this semester that I know you are the person actually doing what you are. To it, if you don't do it, it's a 0. I mean, actually, not just a 0 in it, you fail the course outright. If you don't do it, you fail the course outright. If you do it, and there's such a massive drop-off from the grade you have already existing in this course and this quiz, I'm going to think some shenanigans are afoot in that you've had people doing your work for you the entire semester, and I have the complete and utter right to just fail you on the spot. I have that freedom and that right through this school, that if I think there's some shadiness going on and a drastic drop in the quality from the work you've had in this class to just this one quiz, if I see a drastic drop, my immediate thoughts are they didn't do their work in the semester. Did somebody else do it? They were the one who legitimately had to do this quiz because they were the only ones who could do this quiz, and they bombed. And in doing so, that just tells me this person didn't do their work, and you failed. You have an automatic, and I have complete right to do so. You can have the whole sob story you want. It's not going to help you. Please learn that in college, sob stories don't work, especially not with me. So, one, make sure you do it. It is open. It is open until December the 11th at 5 p.m. So, the Friday before the class ends, that quiz is due. So, not this coming Friday, but the following Friday, December the 11th at 5 p.m. Now, you have to be done by 5 p.m. So, that means since it's a 2-hour max time limit, means you can't start any later than 30. If you do, you don't have the entirety of that time. You only have until 5 p.m. on Friday, December the 11th, or else it will just cut you off. It'll stop you there. It'll turn in what you have, but you're done. But yes, you have 2 hours to take this quiz. It is 100 points. I believe there's 47 questions on it. If let me look on that actually. Anymore. Hold on. But yeah, so 120 minutes to take this quiz. There we go. And then there are actually 17 questions, so it's not that bad. It's only 17 questions, so it shouldn't take you too long, but you still do have the full 2 hours to take said quiz. My advice as far as this quiz is watch or read Oedipus as much as possible. Watch or read Oedipus as much as you can so that the story is in you. So then when these questions come about, you have the ability to answer them. I'll go ahead and tell you right now the type of quiz that it is. And so therefore, what you need to pay attention to when you're watching and or reading Oedipus again, because you've already watched and read it at least once, right? The quiz is basically quotes from the play, and you will note who said it. There will only be 4 characters: Tiresias, Jocasta, Oedipus, and Creon are the 4 characters, and you will then have 17 different quotes in which you are to say who said that quote. And it shouldn't take you too long, but like most things when I tell my students, and check that, now I'm looking at it again, there are 10 quotes. There are 10 quotes in which you have 4 characters, and the 4 characters, one of those 4 characters said the quote, so you will match the quote to whoever said it. Those are the first 10 questions of this quiz. Then you will have some general information about who's the author, when was it written, where was it written and produced, just general questions about the play as a whole. There'll be 5 in which you will then have a multiple choice option to answer. And then you will have 2 questions that will be short answer. One of which is, and I'm not going to give you too much because you have some toughness to the quiz. You know your typical short answer, and understand that these aren't just yes or no answers. The whole thing, you get frustrated when it's yes or no and why. Well, that's basically what these are. You need to be able to explain the why behind it. It's not just say it's a yes or a no. So one asks you those questions, and then another one is more of a personal explanation of your own interpretation of what was going on. So again, you'll have 15 multiple choice. The first 10, you'll have characters listed, the same 4 characters listed, and you will have a quote that's there, who said that quote, and then you will match the quote to who said it. Then you'll have 5 questions that are general knowledge questions about the play as a whole, some things that I've already just listed to you. And then you'll have 2 short answer questions in which one is directly about the play itself and your interpretation of it, and then one is your feelings towards certain elements of the play. So, in a sense, just give a fuller explanation of how or why you feel the way you feel about certain things. And as long as you're thorough about it, you'll probably do pretty well. Now, this seems like it would be an easy question, yet this is the one a lot of students miss on because they half-assed the question. It's the last question in the quiz, so you're just like, oh, I'll just throw something at it and then boom, done, yay. Yeah, but you're throwing, a lot of points away. That seemingly easy question is 20 points of the whole quiz. You half-ass it, you get half a grade. You're throwing 10 points away, and so the best you have is a 90, assuming you didn't miss anything else. So those 10 points can make a difference. So make sure you thoroughly answer both of your short answer questions that I do have on this, as much as you would answer, of course, all the multiple guess ones that I have earlier in the quiz itself. So that's the quiz you have. Go here. There we go. And again, it has actually been available to you since November the 16th. It has been open for you to do, because that's around the time in which I did have you watch it or read. Actually, yeah, the 16th is the 9th and the 16th were the 2 classes to Leviticus. So make sure you need to go over it again. Make sure this quiz is done, because it is due December the 11th at 5 p.m. So 4:59 p.m. that day, you can turn in. At 5 p.m. you can't. If you're in the middle of doing the quiz, you'll be stopped, basically, and it will basically turn in what is there. Just don't wait till the last minute. It's a really easy quiz. My advice is read or watch, or both, probably 3 times. 3 times, and you'll have it in. Again, focus in on general information about the play, focusing on what character said what lines, because those will be part of the quiz, and then, yes, personal interpretation of certain events within the play will be some short answer that you will do. And so that's what you need to do as far as that quiz. And again, that is due December the 11th at 5 p.m., so not this Friday, but next Friday. And then the last work beyond that is the research essay. And as I said before, you'll take one of the 2 essays you've already done, or the drama one you're going to do, if you haven't already done. I think 2 of you have done it already. And you will back it up, one of those essays, with source material and MLA 8th edition sourcing and citing. Now, you already have the framework of MLA 8, because all the work in this course has been MLA 8. But only for the research essay do you have the research, but therefore you must have proper sourcing and citing. And that leads us to what I told you a little bit before. Let me get to announcements. Under announcements, same place you'll find this video, you will see something that says MLA 8th edition works cited entries and text citations and parenthetical citations. You will then click on that, and you have these 2 blue hyperlinks to the Purdue OWL websites. The very first one says works cited entry. So you click on that, and it leads you to a page that says Purdue Online Writing Lab, College of Liberal Arts, Purdue University, Purdue OWL. MLA Formatting and Style Guide. And so this gives you a heads up of examples of works cited entries and how they should be listed. And the very top of this, there is a, when they updated this about 4 years ago, they made it, let me say, a lot simpler for you, the student. There used to be a whole process that, depending on what type of source, you had differences between how you would structure certain parts of it. Well, when you're trying to teach students multiple ways of doing a MLA thing, and trying to also teach them a way of doing an APA thing, obviously students will get confused. I will give credit to both forms. They used to be extremely different and intentionally different, because they were very much thought, that their own was the best and that the others were awful. Well, the student were not in mind when they came up with a lot of these things. I know, because I had to learn MLA 5 in high school, MLA 6 in college, MLA 7 in grad school, and MLA 8 when I obviously changed here. APA, from what I learned, I only had to deal with it really as a freshman in college, because MLA has such a because the old English department, which is now writing and rhetoric and separate from it, literature departments at Ole Miss are so powerful, they were able to swing MLA as the dominant sourcing and citing force at Ole Miss. At least that's the way it was about 20 years ago. May have changed now, I'm not sure. But we did a lot more stuff in MLA. So when I worked in APA, it was literally just to learn it in a Comp 2 course, which didn't really factor in that much as far as the work in it, because it was dealing with movies, actually, that course was. And any future courses in English or literature. So really, APA was just to use if I were to use it in, let's say, a science course, which I barely had any of them anyways. But it was good that I learned it, and it's good to have that because you will be taking at least some science courses, and you'll be writing more than you ever have. The push more towards writing that has happened, and you probably saw it within your own high school education these last couple of years, whereas in the prior, 10, 11, 12 years of your experiences, it was nothing. It was the opposite, quite frankly. And they realized the error of over-testing students and basing everything off of standardized tests. Too late, but at least they finally recognized it. That's why you've noticed you have a lot more writing now than you would ever have before. And to that, you'll have a lot more research writing than you'll have ever had before. If you had me before, you've already done an APA research essay, and hopefully you have for your other instructors. This is where you'll have one for MLA, and it works better for Comp 2 because we are dealing directly with literature. MLA stands for Modern Language Association, so any languages that aren't dead. APA stands for American Psychological Association, so it's based within the sciences themselves. It's there for science lovers using it, but also business, all your STEM stuff, technology, engineering, mathematics, all love using that. Modern Languages Association is more towards English, Spanish, French. Some political science, simply because poli-sci has traditionally used its own method, Chicago style. I actually use MLA because of that power that the English department at Ole Miss, but a lot of places use APA because there is more of a scientific nature to it than you normally would have. But it's good to have a knowledge of all these things. And by the way, if, let's say, you need a refresher on APA, the Purdue OWL website is great for that as well, because they have the most up-to-date APA as well. Because APA did go through an update this very year. In fact, this is the new Comp 1 book for those who took Comp 1 before. We had a different book. This is a brand spanking new book in Comp 1 because it has what it was needed anyways. Because MLA was behind in that one because of the MLA changes, but also APA was going to be behind if we had gotten a new book, because that's what this is all about, the 2020 update for APA. So even if you learned APA in the fall of 19, you didn't have the updates, and even we were kind of spring of 20, even we were a little behind in getting it. So I think we used 19, and then we got this book text for that. So have that in mind when it comes to any sourcing and citing you have for any of your other essays. But when dealing with MLA, and this essay will be MLA, if you go to this page, creating works cited lists using the 8th edition, there is, again, a simplicity to this compared to the way it was before. Because there's now a consistency to what we call core elements within citing of the source. And it's listed here. It has 9 different things: author, title of source, title of container, other contributors, version, number, publisher, publication date, and location. Now, first things first, you might not use all of these things. If you don't, that's fine. Only use what information you gather from the source that you use. If it doesn't exist, then you don't plug it in, but make sure it doesn't exist. So look for all these particular things when you do look to plug in for your works cited page. Now, if you want to make your life a lot easier, the easiest of easiest things, I would just say use all 3 of the sources you use for this essay have from our library database. And the reason is not only because if you're using for a database, we have a way of checking what needs to be checked. If there's something wrong with the source, that's not your fault. That's our fault for not having it as updated as it needs to be. Because that thing is constantly, we pay to have that thing. I mean, we don't run it ourselves. It's run by somebody else, and a bunch of other universities and colleges and community colleges, junior colleges use it. But we all pay them money so that updating is done so efficiently that any and all information is as fresh as possible. So that's one reason. Because there's that extra step, and you hopefully there's in Comp 1. If you just go to the Google machine, it's up to you to make sure that the information is as up to date as possible, that is from a credible source, not just some random person with a random blog, but someone who's learned in the area that you're dealing with, either through their education or their personal experiences, legitimate personal experiences. I always have to specify that because, especially nowadays, people pull things at their end and then want to state it as fact, and no, that doesn't count. In fact, if you do that on this essay, I'll fail you out of principle. No, you'll fail in the merits, but I'm going to fail you out of principle as well. And I say I'll fail you. You will earn that F pretty hard if you do that. Trust me, I have a whole spiel in Comp 1. If you've had my Comp 1, I've had a whole lecture or a rant on that. So let's just move on because we're already running late enough as is. Another reason, though, to use the database is many of these databases do this works cited entry all for you. You scroll to the bottom of the article or the list or whatever, or wherever you got it from our database, and you look and you have the ability to mark MLA 8 or APA, whatever, or Chicago style, whatever style you want. So if it's an MLA essay, you click and you make sure it's on MLA 8, and then it does it for you. And all you have to do is copy, paste, and then make sure it's structurally the way it is supposed to be. Because a proper MLA 8th edition works cited entry and the entries as a whole, first things first, the prompt word, which is always the first word, generally if you have an author's last name, it will be in alphabetical order. You must list it in alphabetical order. So if you have it to where you have 3 sources and one is Barkley, one is Miller, and one is Stanley, then since that's already in alphabetical order, that's how it should be listed. You should have Barkley, comma, William, and then period. And note, by the way, where there are periods and where there are commas, when you look at this page on the Purdue Owl website, there's a reason why certain parts of the entries have periods after them and certain parts of the entries have commas. So make sure that it's done correctly. Again, if you use their database and it does it for you, it's going to do it for you, copy, paste, you're good to go. It'll have, by the way, everything correct as far as the order is concerned. It'll also have everything correct as far as certain things need to be italicized or quote marks around it, and then the information that needs to be left out gets left out because it's not there. So again, another reason I would use the library database for all of your sourcing. It makes your life so much easier. I mean, you can use regular books, that's fine. In general, I say try to make sure that it's been edited or revised or itself was written in the last 5 years. But with literature, it's different. Some of the best work connecting the literature is written immediately after the literature itself. So you might find something, we're doing a Hamlet, something that's 400 something years old. You can do that. And by the way, please make sure all your information is accurate, because in my World Lit, which is sophomore class that I teach, I had a student who said that William Shakespeare wrote Taming of the Shrew in 1956. He died in 1611, I do believe, and therefore we could not have written in 1956. So make sure all your information is actually correct. Whether it be source or just general knowledge stuff. Shakespeare was not alive in 1856. So, yeah, make sure you have accurate information. But yeah, the database does this for you automatically. But if you want to look at this on Purdue Owl, you have the order in which you can have those things. And on Purdue Owl, by the way, you have a few examples under which is a simple author, hobby, comma, homie, K period, then the title of the book, italicized, period, the publisher name, comma, and the year of publication. So all that's there. Title of source and where it is, and noting that your larger works, and you should know this, and some of you aren't doing this on your essays or your reader responses, and you're losing points. Larger works of literature, the titles are italicized. Smaller works of literature, the title has quote marks around it. When it comes to this class, the poetry titles and the short story titles, you put quote marks around them. The drama play titles, Oedipus Rex, or Oedipus the King, The Glass Menagerie, Hamlet. Every time you reference the literature title, you italicize the title of the play. Larger works, books, play titles, names of the collection of a whole of a bunch of smaller works, those titles are italicized. Poetry titles, short story titles, names of works within a collection, those get quote marks around. A good way of of remembering this is when it comes to music. Album titles are italicized, song titles have quote marks. The songs are within the album, the smaller parts within the whole of the work of the albums. So that's a good way of remembering it. Movie titles, by the way, are also italicized for those who. These are things you should learn in Comp 1. If you didn't, well, try to learn now. Because this is an issue that I've seen on some of your readers once it's in essays, and I've noted it on many of yours. But this will be a big issue because the way it has to be done on this works cited page is the way it's supposed to be. And not just the works cited page, but when we get to in-text and parenthetical, it's supposed to be the way it's supposed to be, and you'll lose points if it's not. It's highly important, in particular with the drama plays, because two of the drama plays, the title of the play is also the title of a character. And if your reader can't tell the difference between when you're referencing the title of the play or the title of a character, it may seem obvious to you, it should seem obvious to them, but remember the general freshman college standard is what we're applying here, and what the hell does that mean anymore, to be honest? As I've learned within my own profession and what I do here, don't assume any student knows anything. I've had to, add more to what I do. I'm not supposed to do certain things, but I do it simply to make sure that y'all doing it right, even though I know you should have learned it by now. The whys are plentiful, but why these things aren't being done. But although, as I often say, if you had me in Comp 1, you know. But you have all these different examples that you have, and that also, by the way, lists. So you have all I told you for author, title of source, title of container, other contributors, version number, publisher, publication date, and location, and then examples of all these things as you scroll down and keep scrolling down of what it is to look for, what it is you are looking for. And there are optional elements as well. I'm a big believer, particularly if you're doing anything either online or from a database, I'm a big believer in having the access date. So you scroll down to where it says date of access. This was mandatory under MLA 7. It's no longer mandatory under 8, but I'm a big fan of it, particularly for any source that is gathered through electronic means, whether it be traditionally physical or not traditionally physical. Again, my advice would be to use the traditional physical means of your library database. But something that, if I were you, I would make sure to also put is the access date. So on the example here, it says date of access, Bernstein, Mark, and all the rest of the information has the URL, and at the very end, period, accessed for May 2009, period. Access date is key because, particular when it comes to information, again, things change very fast. Unfortunately, we are now in the middle of the 32nd minute of this video, and there may have been something that was true when I started this video that might not be true by the time I finish it in hopefully a few minutes. Things move that fast, and sometimes databases can't catch up. So that access date basically allows us to know that this information was accurate, at least at the moment you accessed it, or to your knowledge and to our knowledge, the moment it was accessed. So it may have been an article that you accessed that was accurate, and then at the moment, and then at the time I graded, it's no longer, but I know it was there and it was. And again, you utilize our database, and there are any issues, that's not on you, that's on us and the people who are supplying it. So it also, I like having that for one other major reason. It takes away one more reason for you to want to procrastinate, because a lot of students will use whatever reasons they can to procrastinate, wait till the last minute to do anything. And one of the excuses that you can use is, well, I wanted to wait till the last minute because I want to make sure the information that I used in the sourcing and citing was as accurate as possible. I'd rather you get done well in advance so you're not rushing to get things done. And even if it means the information was accurate when you did it, but not accurate by the time I graded it, by all means, you're safe, you're fine. And I prefer it because odds are, even if you wait till that last moment, while you might have the most accurate information, the rest of the essay is probably going to be a mess that wasn't edited, revised, or proofread, thrown at me, and you're asking for a 68D. So don't procrastinate. That's not any work you'll do. And then, and even here, by the way, you keep scrolling down, creating in-text citations and looking at parentheticals. You have examples of that here, even on the formatting style guide page. And then, of course, you have a second link that's on that thing that has in-text citations. I call them in-text citations, and it's called parenthetical citations. there's only a small difference between them. In text is in the text of the sentence. Parenthetical is in a parenthetical in parentheses at the end of the information, which is generally at the end of the sentence itself, though not always. It can be in the middle. If the information stops, but the sentence continues, you want to put that parenthetical when the information stops. If for no other reason, you want to give yourself credit for all the rest of that sentence because you came up with it. Because in research essays, what you do is when you do not have an in-text or parenthetical citation attached to information, you're saying you came up with that information. And you're doing that for no other reason your name is at the top of the page. And so if there's any information which is in there, you don't have to source it to somebody else, therefore it goes to you. If you didn't come up with it, that's plagiarism, that's academic dishonesty. You're a 0 on this essay, and basically have no chance of anything higher than a C in the course. And if it's your second violation, you fail the course outright. My general rule is the second violation is an automatic fail. So what you want to make sure to do is to source and cite every single bit of information that does not come from your own brain or the textbook itself. And I want to be abundantly clear on that. Because too many students, and I will say it, and I'll say it, and I'll say it, and they'll still do it, and then wonder why they lost a bunch of points. Yes, you will use the stories themselves, obviously. That's a part that you're dealing with literature. You're doing an analysis mixed in with some summary backup of the literature. But that is an inside source, a source that I gave you. I don't need sourcing and citing to it. It is not part of the natural flow of the sentence. There's no need for it. In fact, in many ways, it gets in the way of the essay when you do that. If it's parenthetically done, which if it's textbook, there should be no parenthetical connected to the textbook that has been assigned to you. There may be an in-text citation simply because it's a part of the natural flow of a sentence. If that's the case, then that's perfectly fine. So you're saying William Shakespeare says in Hamlet, blah, 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 blah. Perfectly fine. But you don't want to say blah, 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 close quote, parentheses, Shakespeare, comma, pagination, whatever the page number is, and then close parentheses, period. No, you don't want to do that. So if it's part of the natural flow of the sentence from the textbook, that's fine. But don't do a parenthetical to that. Only do parentheticals to the outside sourcing. Now, when it comes to the outside sourcing, those that come from outside, anything that I've assigned to you, you have those two options, either in-text citation or parenthetical. In some cases, you will be doing both. If you utilize a regular book as one of your outside sources, let me clear that, outside sources, you may have it to where, and if you scroll down on the page that I gave you, which says emulate in-text citations to basics, one of the very first examples has right here, in-text citations, author page style. Wordsworth stated that romantic poetry was marked by a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings, and spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings, quote. By the way the sentence is correct because it flows into the quote. So this is both, and it is not a launch statement. It affects the purpose of it by having the author's last name in there. It does note some information, but because it's flowing in as one whole sentence, you don't need a comma there. Whereas in general, with your launch statements, you have a comma there before you open the quote, and then have the quote, and then close the quote, and then note, open parentheses, 263, close parentheses, period. You note the author's name in the sentence, that's perfectly fine. You do not note the pagination in the sentence. If there's pagination, it is always noted in a parenthetical at the end of the information. So here it says, Wordsworth stated that romantic poetry was marked by a open quote, spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings, close quote, open parentheses, 263, close parentheses, period. Now, if you do not have the author's last name in the text of that sentence, like in the second example, romantic poetry is characterized by the open quote, spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings, close quote. Notice again, it flows directly as one sentence, so therefore there's no need for a comma there. Open parentheses, Wordsworth, space, 263, close parentheses, period. If you don't note the author's name in the sentence, you must note the author's name in the parenthetical. So if there's a need for a parenthetical, which is necessary if there's pagination, it's always that the information, it's either by itself if the sentence contains the author's last name or whatever the prompt is, name, the words of the prompt, or if it does not contain, since it does not contain the prompt or author's last name, you will include that in the parenthetical, what Wordsworth space 263 in parentheses, and then note period after parenthetical. If you have a parenthetical and the sentence ends in a period, then the period goes after the parenthetical. If the parenthetical is in the middle of the sentence, then the comma goes after the parenthetical, and then the rest of the sentence continues. Now, if the sentence ends in an exclamation point or a question mark, where it's located is dependent on the sentence structure itself. If the entirety of the sentence is an exclamation or a question, and that includes the quote, then that goes after the parenthetical. But if only the quote itself is an exclamation or a question, then the exclamation mark or the question mark goes within the quote marks. I know that's confusing. In general, you will not be quoting things with exclamations or questions, so that shouldn't be an issue. And 99.9% of the cases, you will have a period or a comma after the parenthetical, and then that's it. That's all you will need. Period in the sentence, and that's in the sentence after the parenthetical, or parenthetical, comma, and then the continuation of the sentence. So that is, and most of the ways in which you will do these sources will be that way. And by the way, that includes even in sentences where you're not having a direct quote. If you're just paraphrasing or summarizing, and you note the author's name in the sentence, same rule applies. That's the third example. Wordsworth extensively explored the role of emotion in the creative process. That's basically a way of rewording, paraphrasing what you have, or summarizing. Because as you should learn in Comp 1, no matter if you directly quote, if you summarize, or if you paraphrase, in all three situations, you must source the original where it came from. It's not so much the words you're stealing when you plagiarize as much as it's the idea that you're plagiarizing. So therefore, in all three of those types, and again, you should learn in Comp 1, you make sure that's where you have source material, and that's where it needs to be sourced, because the original idea came from outside your own brain or any in-class stuff that was given to you. So you have these abilities to do so, and in all three of these cases, Wordsworth is the prompt word, because in general, it's the last name of the author. And then you can then reference the works cited page, where here's an example of that: Wordsworth, comma, William, period, italicized lyrical ballads, period, Oxford UP, comma, Oxford University Press. So that stands for in the 1967 period, 67 year of publication. So these are the ways in which it matches, because the way it should be is I note the prompt in the sentence, I then go to the works cited page, I note the source itself, that's there, done properly, then I go to the source and see that it was legit, and when that's done, you're good to go. So that is how that should be. And again, you have many other types of sources, in-text citations for print sources with a known author, with a corporate author, no known author, and you scroll down, you have all these different other examples. Classic literary works with multiple editions, author page citation or anthology periodical collection. We won't have to go into detail about all this because you won't need all of this, but do be aware that in case you need it for this essay or any future essays, go buy this Purdue OWL. It's a buy as far as not purchase. You don't have to buy anything, thankfully. Although they do have the MLA 8th edition handbooks that are available for purchase, usually about 20 to 24 bucks. I actually won one in a raffle, so I left it at home. But you can access all this for free. And so if you happen to have to utilize any of these for a different essay or for this essay, you have the ability to be able to put it all together. So it is all here, including what may be more important to you is how to source information that doesn't have pagination. Because as I noted before, I told you before, the best thing to do is just use our library database for all three of the sources or more sources that you use, because it'll just make your life so much easier, and it will. And in most cases, 97% of the time, when you use anything for our database, you're not going to have pagination. Some things do. If it was originally in print and then converted to our database, you'll have pagination there. You'll have the page number. You'll be able to list those things. But a lot of times, there are articles only written to be produced from an online means, or wasn't originally in print, but then has been checked and sourced properly by our the people who do run the database. And so what you will do there is pagination. It's simple. The easiest way to do it is just have the author's last name or whatever the prompt is in the sentence, and then that's all you need to do. There's no need for a parenthetical whatsoever in that case. Now, if you do have a sentence and the author last name or whatever the prompt is not in the sentence, then you will have to have a parenthetical at the end of the information, basically open parentheses, name and last name of the author, close parentheses, period, and there you go. So that's how that will be, and that'll be how most of the ones you do have. It will be to where you either reference just the author's last name in the sentence, or you reference the author's last name in the parenthetical at the end of the information with the period or comma after the parenthetical. So that's going to be how it is that you do have these things. And note I said author's last name or prompt. Not all sources have authors attached to them. But my advice, quite frankly, is to always use sources that have the authors attached to them. For no other reason, it just makes your life a lot simpler rather than having to go down the line to figure out what the prompt is that you need to have within that entry itself. So if you want to know exactly that order, well, go back to the prior page that we looked at. As far as the order of the core elements, it goes author, title of source, title container, other contributors, and on the way down. Basically, by the time you get to 4, you found it, or else why the hell did you use it? Author, title, source, title container, or other contributors, and that's basically as far as you need to go. Because by the point you go after that, version number, publisher, if you're that devoid of information, you shouldn't use that source at all. But my highest advice to you would be to always use sources that have authors attached, because then it's easy. Author last name. It's what you reference either in text or parenthetical, and it's what you reference as the prompt in the works cited page. It goes in alphabetical order regardless of what the prompt is. So if, let's say, you don't have all 3 of your sources as author, that's fine, but it must still be in alphabetical order. Nothing different than that. It doesn't go in a separate spot because it's not an author. However it is alphabetically, and what it needs to be in alphabetical order, whatever that first word of the prompt is, that's whatever the word that goes in that order, again, alphabetical order, like I noted before. So that is how you will need to have it. Again, go through the entirety of those 2 pages that I have posted under the announcements. Again, MLA 8th edition works cited entries, in-text citations, and parenthetical citations. Works cited entries, and there's a link under it. In-text parenthetical citations, there's a link under that as well. And if you have any questions about anything beyond that, send me an email, and we'll try to work through it either through email or, if need be, you call me, and then we can do it over the phone to where I want to make sure that you have it all right. Or worst case, I will offer this. I will not look at individual essays as far as the information as a whole or to do corrections for you. However, if you want me to look at your essay to make sure you've done your in-text and/or parenthetical citations correctly, and to make sure you have done your works cited page correctly, with the entries done correctly, I am willing to do that, just to make sure you're correct and straight on that. And the reason being, this is the #1 way in which students fail this particular course or bomb out of this course when they were doing so well, is by not properly doing this essay, in particular doing proper MLA 8th edition sourcing and citing. That it's the easiest way. And to be honest, though, it's not so much this semester, by the way. In the fall, winter, I don't usually have as much of an issue with this. It's in the spring where I have an issue. Why? Well, you've done really awesome throughout the whole semester. By the way, your class has done really, really awesome. I looked at your grade stuff, and it's just A's up and down the rows. I'm very appreciative. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But those A's become C's real quick if you don't do what needs to be done here. And that's the #1 way. Again, not so much in this fall semester. Usually you're on the ball. Some of you are fresh in it. Some of you may be more experienced. And to be honest, everything going on, particularly right now, is more conducive to getting your work done. Springtime, particular if this is your first year in college, you get senioritis, even though you're not seniors. There are no seniors in the community college. But a year ago, you were seniors, and everything was so nice and fun and East End too. Plus, the weather gets to being so much nicer. What we've experienced the last 2 days goes away, and then what we experienced the prior month shows up, say, the hurricanes. And it's so much nicer out there. And there's a million things you'd rather be doing than doing a research essay. And so, okay, I'll just throw something at him. He'll throw a at me. I usually throw a 0 back because you didn't do it properly. Again, not as much an issue in the fall as in the spring, but I want to make sure you understand that this must be done properly. MLA 8th edition the way it says within these links, the way it does, and the framework and for the most part, the framework you all have had and you've done well, MLA 8, one of you keeps multiple spacing instead of double spacing, and then you wonder why you lose points. You must do your work double spaced, or else you lose points. It's that simple. But yeah, make sure this is done properly, and I want this done properly. So again, if you want to send it to me, again, I'm not looking at any other parts of the essay, but just to look to make sure you do the MLA 8th edition stuff correctly. If you want to send me an attachment, I'll look at it. I'll tell you, hey, you got it, great, or hey, this needs to be corrected, this needs to be corrected, and then you'll make whatever corrections you need to. One last thing with this. And again, my apologies for this video being so long, but it's highly important that you know and understand what needs to be done here. Plus, we had a lot of work to get done. Probably the most major of differences, and there's some other ones between APA and MLA. APA is a cover page, MLA is header page, header title. APA has an abstract, MLA doesn't have an abstract. They call in APA it's called a reference page, and in MLA it's called a works cited page. So there are other major differences, but probably the most noticeable difference is how much you must source and what sentences you do source within each essay. In APA, in general, you probably put all your information in one lump, and then at the very end of that information, you just source at the end of the information. In MLA 8th edition, you source in or after every single sentence that does not come from your own brain. So if you have 9 straight sentences where there's something that needs to be sourced, guess what? You're sourcing 9 straight sentences, either in text or parenthetically. So that's a big difference. I repeat, in APA, you only source to the end of the whole of the information. Generally, what you put it in one big lump, so it all stays together, so you don't have to do more. And then you just source at the very end of it. In MLA, if you have a sentence that needs to be sourced, you source it. The next sentence to be sourced, you source that. Next sentence to be sourced, you source that. Next sentence to be sourced, you source that, and so on. And you do it fully and properly, either in text or parenthetical, every single sentence. MLA is bigger on the information individually being given the proper, that the individual who came up with it is given proper credit, and that means in every single sentence. Whereas APA is all about the information itself being clear, and yes, eventually sourced, but it's more about a focus on the information, whereas in MLA, it's about giving credit to who came up with the information. So make sure, again, every single sentence, whether it be directly quoted, paraphrase, putting it in your own words, or summarize, condensing their words, every single sentence of information that does not come from your own brain must be sourced either in the text of the sentence or in a parenthetical at the end of the information. So make sure you do that. If you have any other questions on any other sourcing and citing things, send me an email. I'll try to hopefully clear that up for you. If there's something that a lot of people are having issues with, or maybe something that I wasn't clear of and I want to make sure it's clear, I will send another video just to make sure that you have that information. Again, all of what I've just said only applies to the research essay. Do not do any of this for the drama essay. If you do, you have a 0, and I have 0 sympathy for you. You are not to have any source material on the drama essay. You only, or by that matter, no source material on the reader response and no source material on the journal. There's only one bit of work in this class in which you will have source material, and that is the research essay at the end, which is due Wednesday, December the 16th at 8:59 a.m. So, if I have to do those extra videos, I will. If I don't, you'll have a video next week, and then a final video. After you check that, next week will be the last videos, because the following week, the only day I'm going to be in is after, the week of the 16th will be the 16th. I'm going to come in, I'm going to grade your essays. We're having a goodbye to one of our colleagues who's retiring, and then I won't be back here until January the 4th, maybe later, depending on what all goes on with the pandemic. So you'll have a video next week, and then that'll be the last one. I might do 2 videos next week just to make sure, clean up all the other work, and then one last video to reiterate the Oedipus quiz and then reiterate the research essay itself. I apologize that this video went almost 55 minutes long. I hate going this long, but this is all important information that you need to know and have to make sure things get done. Because again, 2 weeks, technically less than 2 weeks from this very moment, this class is over, and you're actually the last of my classes. So it's important that we get this information in, even if it does go on forever. Hope you're all doing well. I hope you're avoiding this stuff because I between seeing the number jump for the state of Mississippi come up on my phone and the fact that y'all could be bullshitting me, my students might be, but someone who more likely has gone through COVID and is still going through it, and it's his brain, unfortunately, I'm not going to call out anyone. I'm having a lot of students that are saying, hey, I have it, or my kids have it, or sibling has it, or someone in the household has it. And so it's blowing up. So please be safe out there. I know a lot of people are like, I want to do what I want. Well, it's fine, but be prepared to deal with what happens. And hopefully you're one of the most 97% of the people that has nothing happen to them. But as someone who, I'll be honest, I'm shocked I've been able to talk for 55 minutes. I hope I've made sense because my brain, I have the side effect of my brain still having issues, basically clinking out. You may have experienced that with some of the videos, and you may wonder why I stopped. And I was trying to remember what to do. Everything below my neck is healed up, but my brain is still having issues. And so, as someone who has issues, and more than likely will be confirmed that he had it when they get their testing, please be safe because I hope this issue goes away with me, and I hope you don't have an issue that's going to cause you harm, even in the short term, more or less, long term, and in some cases, unfortunately, permanently. So take care of yourselves. Enjoy yourself what you can, but be safe. Hope you did enjoy your Thanksgiving, but be mindful of your surroundings and be mindful that you need to finish strong. As much as you might want to take it easy as much as possible, you do need to finish out the semester and finish it as a whole. My ultimate advice to all students is get past the finish line. If you have to stumble across the finish line, fine, but get across it. Don't stumble in front of it. Try to ease into something because college isn't like that. Some of you may have already learned. If not, this is your first semester. You are learning that in high school, you kind of ease in the finals. In college, no, it's slam, 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 and then you take your finals. So get through everything, not just in my class, although get through all the stuff in my class, all your classes. Get to the end, get past the end. Then relax and enjoy yourself all you want once it's all said and done. And trust me, when you're all done, I will, because you are my last class. Once I'm done with your stuff, they won't see me for at least 2.5 weeks. But make sure you get done with everything that needs to get done. Get through everything that needs to get through. Stay safe, stay healthy. And like I said, I may send a video later this week, but more than likely I'll just send 1 or 2 videos next week. So have a good day.